let's just talk about a few things, okay? The first, so I'm gonna talk about those messages, but let me just summarize everything that I'm feeling here. The first thing that I want to say is the spread here, the emphasis, and the emphasis basically deals with the north node, and the north node is generally, you know, the person that you aspire to be, the person that you aim to be, and the lessons that you want to be learning in this lifetime. I have a very strong Aquarius energy. It shows up here as the star, and the star is the card of Aquarius. And the thing about Aquarius people is that they break rules. They don't really obey rules and order. They know how to think for themselves. They pride themselves so strongly on their independence that they would rather figure out a solution by themselves, even if it means reinventing the wheel, rather than following a path that has already been trailblazed for them. And so they want to be the one to, you know, arrive at their own solutions, to do things their own way, and not have to conform to any type of rules, regulation, procedures, protocol, unless they see merit in it, and then unless they're the ones that came up with it. So they're very, very efficient. They're very streamlined. They do things, and they always want the fastest, the most rational, or the most efficient way to get from A to B. And so they often cut corners, and it's not about being careless or being sloppy. They cut corners because with Aquarius people, they understand things out of the blue. So you can tell them one thing, from that one piece of information, they can glean like 10 things. So they know how to jump to conclusions super fast. And not every sign has this skill, but I feel like with the air signs, they're just really, really good at this. You tell them one thing, they already can, you know, line up their ducks in a row and arrive at a solution. So I feel like you're dealing with people who are trailblazers, who are rule breakers, and they don't really follow the rules. Okay, they don't follow the rules. They beat to their own drums. And if they were fenced in, if someone tells them you have to do this, you have to do that, they're not going to do it. So you're dealing with people who break rules. You're dealing with people who are nonconformists, and it makes you very, 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 very nervous. It makes you uncomfortable that these rules are in place, but for whatever reason, other people are not adhering to them. So I feel like you guys are a little bit outside of your element this month, mainly because what you perceive to be careless and reckless. But it is not carelessness. It is not recklessness. There are people that abuse the rules, mainly because, you know, they're lazy, they're sloppy, they don't really understand the full extent of the rules, because, you know, rules, the way they're written, is legal jargon, so it can be very confusing. So you have those people. You have those people, and those people exist everywhere. They're sloppy, they're lazy, they don't really dig deeper to figure out exactly what the rules stipulates. They break rules because they don't know any better, okay? And you have those too. You have those people as well. And those are the people, when they do things, you kind of like look over their shoulders, or they're the ones that you don't trust. And so you're using your experience with those people. They break rules. They're irresponsible and reckless and sloppy. And now you're like, okay, everyone that breaks rules is like that, irresponsible, reckless, and sloppy. However, you're ascending now, Scorpios. You're in a really, really good space with Jupiter in your sign. It's a higher vibration. It's a higher frequency. And you're dealing with people who are not sloppy, who are not careless, who get things done. And I feel like they're ahead of the game. They're fast. They're quick in the way they analyze situation, in the way they jump to conclusions, in the way that they do things. And so they're going to break rules mainly because they understand there isn't any validity to them. Some rules are outdated. You also have to take that into account. Some rules are outdated. They're just, not relevant for the times that we're living in, for the things that we're doing right now. And they're making you nervous because once again, you're using that old paradigm. People who break rules are sloppy, are irresponsible, are reckless. You're using that paradigm, that mindset to apply to this latter group. And this latter group, that's not the right assessment. And so my advice for you here is learn to think for yourself. Learn to think outside of the box. Learn to ask yourself as well, why is this rule implemented? Why is it implemented? Not just, say like, okay, section 3.9 under, this stipulation, it states that. No. Learn to interpret it yourself. Learn to understand exactly why. What is the reason for it? And it's going to make your life a lot easier. So don't filter it through that legal jargon. Don't filter it through, well, the law says this, the book says that, the regulation says this, protocol says this. Learn to figure out exactly why it was communicated in that way, or why it was written that way, or why it was put in place to begin with. What is it trying to prevent? And then you also need to think as well, with every rule, every law that is in place, there are also situations that are outliers, situations that don't apply, and situations that are, I want to say, exceptions, because, laws are created by humans, okay? And we're prone to human error. And so there are also, outliers and exceptions in every single situation. So use your mind properly, and don't fear it. I feel like many of you are always operating from a place of fear, fearing mistakes, fearing like, oh, I didn't do that to the best of my capabilities, because you yourself are very perfectionistic. And you're also thinking as well, I don't want to put my own interpretation in it and lead somebody astray, because you're trying to do the right thing. But the right thing is for you to use your God-given talents, because many of you are very, very smart, to kind of interpret the laws, to interpret these rules and see if they're still relevant. And then, I feel like many of you, you're bogged down by your emotions. You're bogged down by this, oh, I'm really fearful about making mistakes. I'm really fearful about, doing it wrong or shortchanging somebody by not giving them the legal spiel. And then I'm also sensing many of you are using these emotional hangups that you have in dealing with people who are rule breakers, who are reckless with, and then, giving, ascribing those qualities to the new groups of people who are responsible. And they like to break rules mainly because they know there is a better way to do things. So this whole concept about, this Aquarius influence, if you have an Aquarius in your life, if you have a trailblazer, a rule breaker, a little bit of a rebel in your midst, whoever that might be, and, even if you have just an Aquarius moon, sun, or rising sign, they're there to teach you a very, very important lesson. And I feel like this person has been in the picture, possibly since the beginning of the year. And you're showing or you're seeing some really admirable qualities about them, but they make you very nervous. The way they are, they're unconventional. They're really, really independent, which is something that many of you wish, a quality you wish you possess. And I feel like you look at them and you're just like, wow, that person is they don't need anybody. And that makes you nervous. That makes you very, very nervous. So the way that they are, Everything about them just makes you very, very nervous. But you have a great deal of respect for this person's intelligence, for this person's ability to say, like, I'm not going to bandwagon. I have my own thoughts. I have my own opinions. I have my own ideas and my own way of doing things. And you really admire this person's capabilities and their intelligence. But once again, ascribing qualities that this person doesn't possess based on a similar experience from your past. So you need to learn to look at things through a fresh pair of eyes, through a fresh filter, okay? Scorpios, get rid of your filter. Get rid of, whatever paradigm you've been looking at your life. You kind of need to rip off that filter. You need to throw that away. You need to look at situations with a new pair of eyes. And you need to not let your former biases affect what you're dealing with right now. Okay? This is a brand new page, brand new chapter in your life this year. And so you have really, really great potential to make it, kind of like that best year that it can be, okay? Because you have some great blessings coming in, but you just need, honestly, you just need to let go of some past BS. And I want to say, like, things you've been telling yourself that don't really, I want to say they're not even applicable anymore. They're outdated. And then things that you've been telling yourself to kind of like to rationalize and allow you to accept a situation even when that situation is no longer relevant. You need to let go of that BS, okay? So this is kind of like rip off that filter, rip off that band-aid, and just look at your life through a different lens. And I know it's really difficult for us to do that as a fixed sign, okay? It's really difficult. But if you don't do this, I see a lot of conflict. I see a lot of stagnation. And I see a lot of just, these messages screaming out. You need to think outside the box. You need to do things differently. Okay? And you need to just kind of let some things go. So, simpler times. This is the first message here. So Scorpios, simpler times. I'm thinking about, the 1950s, okay? And American lifestyle, 1950s, where the women wear dresses and the men, they wear the suit. And there's this gender division of labor, and the home environment is still very much intact. So whatever idyllic messages you can glean from the 1950s, the way it's portrayed on the radio, the way it's portrayed on TV, that type of a nuclear family unit, okay? And we go to work, we have like we have banter with our coworkers. And everyone is, very polished and clean and just really, really nice. So everything has this really nice, proper, clean veneer to it. Okay? And simpler times, just, I feel like when you think about that, it takes you back to that moment in time where we say hi to strangers on the street, where people clean up after their dogs, where the streets are nice and clean and everything functions, right? The garbage man comes and pick up your trash on time. The parks are clean. It's not too crowded, and so on a hot day you go to the beach, there's still space between you and the next family that's enjoying the beach. So simpler times when things were a little bit more laid back, when people had time to really interact with each other, when life wasn't crazy, and when technology didn't take over. So I'm feeling many of you, this Aquarian energy as well, that makes you nervous. Aquarius is ruled by, electricity. It's ruled by innovation and inventions as well. So for whatever reason, in whatever capacity you are dealing with the world and working, there is this sense of like technology taking over. You're inundated with so much technology. Your brain is kind of fried. You're longing for this simpler time, this simpler moment in time when we can go to the beach and not bring our phone, not have to worry about, sand getting into our smartphones, not having to worry about, taking a gazillion pictures for Instagram, and not worrying about like, you know, not being distracted, just sitting at the beach, enjoying the waves, and just having a moment of peace and spending this quality time with your family and things like that. So it's a very idealistic concept, but I feel like many of you are clinging to that. Okay, you're just like, I wish things were different. I wish, there's this. I wish we can have this revival. I wish we can have, we can return to the simpler times. And I also feel like, that's just what you're longing for when you interact with other people. You want people to be nice. You want people to be kind, and you want people to respect their elders. You want people to, listen to one another and then have opportunities to engage if they don't agree, but they don't tear each other down with name calling, with inappropriate, just inappropriate memes. And then I also feel as if, that family unit, that where parents kind of are the obeyed figure, where kids don't talk back to their parents, or at least, they still rely on their parents as the source of information, as the source of news, rather than talking back to their parents or, refuting what their parents are telling them. So wanting that nuclear family unit, the strength in that, but also in a way, the gender division of labor when it comes to child rearing, and also the hierarchy when it comes to the family unit as well. And so I see a lot of things here that indicate to me structure, rigidity. But then again, I'm an Aquarius. For you guys, I feel like it denotes, yes, that things are rigid and a little bit stagnant, but it denotes stability, it denotes security, and it denotes certainty. And these are the things that make you feel very, very safe and very secure. And that's what you're really longing for. And you're not getting it in your work environment. You're not getting it in your relationships. And so you're pining for these simpler times. I see for many of you in your relationship, there's almost this sense of reverse, like, gender roles. So for those of you who are, in a heterosexual relationship, I see some hangups here about, the woman providing for the man. And, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I feel like some of you think there's something wrong with that. Okay? So it's almost like discrepancies in earning. The woman making a lot more, she has to take care of the guy in that relationship. And then I also feel for many of you, as the man, you're just like, I want to be the breadwinner, but your significant other, your girlfriend, your wife, is super, super independent, and they don't want to be taken care of. And so there's this sense of wanting to have that traditional unit, but you're naturally attracted to people or situations or circumstances that defy, the structure that you're trying to create. And then I also feel a lot of same-sex couples as well, where there is also, this sense of like having a partner, and it doesn't even have to be, heterosexual, or it doesn't even have to be like same-sex couple. Having a partner that is just a lot more independent. Like on the weekends, you want to cuddle in bed with them, but they have like a gazillion things that they're doing. Their lives, it seems like it's really taking off. They have a lot of things happening, and they're trying to juggle and they're trying to manage, but they're happily doing it. They're not stressed out. And I feel like you're a little bit stressed out, mainly because they're not there in the picture. You're stressed out trying to be the fixer-upper in this relationship because of these prescribed roles that you feel you should fall into. And so I see you putting a lot of unnecessary pressure on yourself. I see you as well managing a relationship. And I see many of you are working really, 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 really hard to maintain a relationship. If you are in a relationship with an air sign, okay, Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra, I see a lack of reciprocity here. Feelings are not. It's almost like we're not on the same page with our feelings. So Scorpios, if you are dating an air sign, excuse me, Aquarius, Gemini, or Libra, I just feel like you're putting in a lot of the work. I feel like you're really busy, and you're busy maintaining your life, maintaining the relationship. They're busy with their own life. So it seems like there's a discrepancy between what you're putting in to maintain the relationship versus what they're putting in. Okay? Make sure they're on the same page with you. Otherwise, see your way out, because I don't see reciprocity. I just don't see it. They care about you, yes, but then they also care about other things. So if you're working a lot, hustling for a relationship, you just need to know if, ask yourself if it's worth it. If you are in a relationship with a fire sign or a water sign, so Sagittarius, Aries, or Leo, you're doing a lot of maintenance. You're bringing work home. You're really struggling. And I see like a geographical distance between you and the fire sign, and also between you and the air sign. And then, with that water sign, there is great, great, great rapport, but your partner, for some reason, financially, they might be under the weather. Financially, they might be in a tough, sticky situation. They're not very stable financially. And so I feel like, you are doing a lot for your partner. You're trying to kind of like be that fixer-upper in your relationship. You just need to ask yourself if your partner is contributing as much. Are they, making an effort? Do you think they're making an effort? Or are you only hoping that they're making the effort? So kind of, rip out that gauze pad that you have over your eyes and try to figure out, am I doing this because they gave me concrete promises that they're going to reciprocate when things get better? Or am I doing this in the hopes, because I'm so in love with them, that they're going to reciprocate once things get better? Intention and promises, okay? Those are different things. And then also wishful thinking and whatever it is that they're promising you. Bottom line, make sure your partner's on board, okay? Because I see you doing a lot, and I just feel like it's not fair to you, Scorpios. Third message here, open-ended. Everything is open-ended. Everything is a discussion. There isn't a final solution to this, okay? And you're tired of it. I feel many of you are just like, and this is something about fixed signs. And Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, Scorpios. The thing about fixed signs is that we want certainty. When we ask a question, do you want to eat this or that? We expect like a simple, concise answer, okay?